And here we go. It's another winter storm possibility coming this next weekend into early next week. However, there's a lot of questions, okay? And this really is more of a threat for the Carolinas. And so we're going to keep an eye on that. I'm going to talk about all that and how it could trend more favorably for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states. But it's not looking as hopeful as it was the past couple days, including yesterday. So let's get right into it. So we'll start out with satellite imagery as we always do. If you remember a few weeks ago, I usually just start out with the National Weather Service's alerts and indices, but I like looking at satellite imagery because it just gives you a whole picture of what's going on and the main players that could affect our weather in the next few days. And so that's what we're here today to talk about. So a couple notable features. First of all, here you have your snow cover from this past storm. Remember, you could see it on satellite imagery. Now that the storm is actually completely cleared off, you can see it all throughout the portions of the central and northeastern U.S. And even to here, there's North Carolina, Virginia. Besides that, we have a slow spinning upper level trough that's bringing this colder air, and then we're going to have a reinforcing shot that comes from the north. So it's going to be really cold. Okay, we're going to talk about those temperatures in a bit, but it's going to be cold nonetheless in the eastern U.S. Most impactful weather, most likely, this week is the colder air, Arctic air mass in place. And then further to the west, so with this upper level trough, there's a little bit of a cold front, so we do get some clouds and some very light snow showers and flurries, mainly closer to the lakes and interior northeast, but some flurries could get closer to the cities, but no real accumulations or anything. And then as you go to the west, some cloud cover through here, some energy up here, likely leading to some light precip, and obviously in the form of snow. And then down here, some very high clouds. And in the west, you actually have a little system moving onshore. We'll talk about that in a bit, most likely as well. This will mainly affect the Pacific Northwest. So again, let's talk about all these features on a more but looking kind of at the surface. Okay. In the east, here's your upper level low right here. Okay, you can see circled right here. That's really bringing this colder air, and that's why we're in the teens for most of the Mid-Atlantic Northeast. Throughout this week, we're going to be really cold. We're not going to maybe even make it out to the 20s, and especially the Northeast, including southern New England and northern New England especially. Could be in the single digits for the morning, even through the day, like especially for areas in upstate New York, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, etc. In the central U.S., we have a high pressure right here. It's just also leading to colder temperatures, okay, because we generally just had this very long wave trough, okay, big, broad trough, okay, that is along the coast. And usually, sometimes you can get storm system with this, but since it's so deep, this trough is all the way, the baroclinic zone is all the way offshore, so anything you do get goes out to sea, well out to sea, and so not really of concern, and no real storms expected this week, except this weekend, which I'll talk about. And then in the west, you have a overall high pressure and control, just ridging going on, bringing some warmer, more temperate conditions. And here's your trough kind of right here with your more reinforcing shot of high pressure, colder air, where you can see it coming through and diving south and east. Off the Pacific Northwest, there's your low right there. Might bring some precipitation. You can see how these kind of isobars are tightly packed, so you do have some windy conditions, gusty conditions off the coastlines, but besides that, nothing too impactful going on. So if we're going to National Weather Service alerts, and this is starting in the west, you can see these are the gale warnings representing winds, I think of excess 40 knots plus off the coast, mainly for boats and vessels, but some wind advisories as you can see through here with the winds, and dense fog advisories as well. Much more quieter though, compared to the last few days. Obviously in the east, cold weather advisories and extreme cold weather warnings, cold warnings. In the blue here, lighter blues, cyanish, are where your cold weather advisories are. Lake effect machine kind of kicking up, some winter weather advisories, nothing too impactful. Some lake effect snow warnings up near upstate New York. In the south, Florida, with some extreme cold warnings or freeze warnings in the indigos, cold weather advisories in the cyan colors, and sporadic throughout the deep south. And then something else that's interesting in the lakes, you have some freezing spray advisories. So you get some winds since it's below freezing. These temperatures can blow the lake water onto like railings and boats and freeze. Okay, and you can get these really cool looking icicles. You can search up pictures like that, just freezing spray on coastlines or vessels, and you'll see how it looks. Let's talk about those temperatures though, because obviously that's the main story going on right now. In the near future, it's the cold. Okay, here you are, just looking at 2-meter temperatures. You can easily get to negatives. I mean, this is waking up tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning. Negatives throughout portions of the Midwest and North Central U.S. into the Northeast. We want to get a little closer view towards the Eastern U.S. It's cold. I mean, if we were to take us out in New York City, for example, let's get a little look. 8 degrees Fahrenheit. 8 degrees. Suburbs, we can get 1 negative degrees maybe. It's gonna be cold. Okay, it's gonna be cold even for the city. So single digits widespread throughout the north and east, and freezing line all the way down to the Gulf Coast. I think every single state here is some part of the state is below freezing, which just shows how deep and cold this air mass is. And so it continues, and then you get this like reinforcement right here. This is your reinforcing shot. Comes through. I mean, look at that. And there's a little system that we're watching, but very cold. It stays cold for the foreseeable future. And then, I mean, yeah, look at that. Throughout the end of the model run, it's insane. I mean, I don't think any of these areas really go above freezing at all. Maybe here, but it looks cold for the foreseeable future. So just know it's probably not going anywhere. Now let's talk about what's going to happen with this weekend storm, because some social media hype sporadically here and there, but it's very bland, I'd say. We can go to the GFS model real quick. Here it is, right here. This is your storm right here. Same stuff as I talked about last time. We're going to have this upper level, this kind of branch, South Stream energy. You're going to have some North Stream energy, split flow, honestly. You have this nice ridge. I'll tell you this much. You have a nice ridge setting up in the west that favors downstream amplification. That's why your low gets to 977. That is a deep low. Now, usually with this, you get some expansive precipitation over here. Probably something like that. Okay, maybe not as, but maybe like here. You get much more precipitation. But why you don't? It's because your jet stream, and I don't know if I can kind of find it here. I might be able to, I think it might be potential vorticity. No, it's not vorticity. Sorry, let me see if I can find it. I might not be able to. Okay, maybe EC fast might. No. Okay, so I can't find it, but basically, right, you have this kind of entry zone. I want to find it really bad. Hold on 1 second. It really shows kind of like the jet, how the jet will be anchored. If I can find it, oh my goodness. Okay, you know what? We're not gonna find it probably. So we'll just see if we can use kind of like this thing. Okay, yeah, no, we're not finding it. Okay, we'll just go back. So basically, I'm gonna try to describe it as best as I can. Here's your low pressure, right? Your jet stream, you're gonna have favorable jet dynamics where you have your upward kind of motion and your winds that are screaming way up in the atmosphere. It's going to be positioned over here, okay? Or it's going to be offshore. It's going to be like here, okay? It's going to be south of this storm, like that. And so generally you'd want this to line up somewhere over here because that favors amplification of a precipitation shield. But since it's offshore and your low isn't lining up with it, it has to kind of make its own precipitation shield. Okay, and so with this cold, dry air mass, I mean, look, if we want to go look at temperatures right now at this time frame, there it is. It's cold, okay, down to the coast, okay? So it's cold and dry. So this storm really has to fight to make its own precipitation shield. That's why even with the 977 low, precipitation doesn't make it that far inland, maybe just past the northwest of I-95. So that just shows kind of one restriction, okay? Second restriction, if we're going back up, kind of stuff I want to talk about. You have a kicker right here. Right here is your kicker. This piece of energy is kind of, if this was further up, you want to space this out, okay? But since it's right here, kind of messes with the amplification of this upper level low that's diving down, digging down. Okay, if this wasn't here, this could go negative quicker and come up the coast. But since it's there, it favors more of a positive tilt / neutral tilt, and it just pushes everything out to sea. Okay, that's why if this was more up, it would have less influence. Therefore, the bat can get swung, and it can come up the coast, get guided up the coast. But instead, with the kicker there, it guides up initially, but then it likely heads out to sea, or more east northeast rather than north northeast. And then because the kicker comes right behind it, so it kicks it out to sea. That's literally kicker kicks it out. Okay. So yeah, but here it's enough separation where you still get a little bit of an expansion before it heads out. Okay, you can kind of see it. Okay, here's your low. We can kind of track it. Okay, watch here. Draw a little L right here. Watch it come like that. Generally like that. Okay, it kind of makes a little loop. It stalls out for a bit, which, I mean, that could be interesting. And then it kind of goes out like that. It kind of goes like something like this. And then it goes like, you see how it goes north-northeast. Just ignore the loop. North-northeast, then east-northeast, okay? That's because of the kicker. So, if I were to show the most extreme solution, CMC is one of the more, I think, and GFS. This one, CMC, you can see it brings it low really deep. It's 958. Like, if you had favorable jet dynamics, this would be insane. But your ceiling is high either way. Carolinas, I feel pretty good about some snow. Okay, I feel pretty good for some snow. Once you go further north and east, it gets a little cloudy. Euro kind of shows how it would look if nothing came together, okay? Here it is, swing and miss. Okay, Cape Cod might get clipped. Again, Carolinas could get some light snow. But then it's out. Why? Well, if we're looking at 500, first of all, here's your positively tilted trough. When it's positive, it also takes more time to get negative, and with that time, this kicker is able to get closer and interfere with this low even more, okay? And so everything just gets kicked out, okay? It goes out to sea and doesn't really bother anyone but the fish. So that's one of your thing. But I mean, like, the really good thing look at this ridge. This ridge, see how it kinks up like that? That is a beautiful north to south oriented ridge. And so if you just had this trough neutral to negative, take this kicker 50, 100 miles further back, and you could have a really big, formidable storm all along the eastern seaboard. Okay? That's really what it is. So, it's just these tiny, small-scale differences that mean everything. So, right now it's, Tuesday. This storm looks to come Friday, Saturday. We'll say Saturday. So, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're still 3 to 4 days out. And we'll especially take last week's storm, for example, or this past week's storm, for example. It can shift in a matter of a day or two. So, we're not done with this storm. There hasn't really been a trend. Okay, ensembles kind of match their operationals. But I'd say there's much more favorability towards an out-to-sea solution rather than coming up the coast and bringing another impactful storm. And I mean, if I'm going to be honest, it's very, very, very rare to see back-to-back big-time snowstorms like we have. So, let's see what happens. I'll keep you guys updated, but for now, it looks like a swing and a miss for Northeast Carolinas. Keep a close eye on it.